Oh, you gotta do my pledge of allegiance. I want to call to order the special board meeting of the Board of Trustees, Monday, September the 25th, 2023, and the time is 6:25 p.m. We're going to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
No, we're going to do roll call.
You call the order first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do roll call. Right, okay. That's right.
All right,
Okay, we're gonna call the roll first. I'm sorry. I'm jumping ahead of things. Sorry about that. Give me a minute. Okay. So Trustee Norwood? Present. Trustee Stan Brown is absent. Trustee Tammy Brown?
Present.
Trustee House?
Present.
Trustee Holmes is absent. Trustee Belcher?
Here.
We have a quorum. In absence of Mayor Henner, I'm requesting motion for the board to name Trustee House Mayor Pro Tem.
So move.
Second.
Okay. Sorry, I don't have my paper in front of me. Okay, Trustee Norwood.
Aye.
Trustee Tammy Brown.
Aye.
Trustee Jason House.
Aye.
Trustee Belcher.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Okay, now I see everybody was ready for the Pledge of Allegiance, so I'll ask if we all stand and so we have Pledge of Allegiance. Which one's the flag?
I don't know.
Where's the closest flag?
There's no flag in this
flag.
room.
Closest flag is out this way.
Okay.
To the right.
Well,
All right. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I believe I saw former trustee Valeria Stubbs. Is she present?
Right here.
Would you mind leading us in prayer, please?
I don't mind. Everybody please bow their heads. Heavenly Father, I come to you today, thanking you for waking us all up today and allowing us to be able to assemble here today, Father. I ask that you give us grace and mercy in our village. I ask that you bring peace to this village and let us get on one accord. Thank you. Anything that's not for the people, Father, I ask that you remove them right now, today. Yes. And I ask that you give us traveling grace and mercy and let us have a smooth meeting. And Father, I ask that we have no videos tonight. In Jesus' name.
Amen.
Now, Valerie, you know I got a video.
no, a video, not video, a video.
So we do want to take a moment, thank everybody for coming out tonight. I want to give a brief kind of overview or summary of this meeting, the reason for the call, and then after that I'll pause to see if any trustees have any comments they want to add, and then we'll proceed through the agenda. Last week we were scheduled to have a committee of the whole meeting that was canceled. No notification given to the board, no notification given to the community. The way that the schedule has been given, or the way the schedule is approved, we should have 2 meetings per month.
Right.
One meeting being committee of the whole, where everybody comes together, we discuss ideas, and then no vote is taken. That way every board member, clerk, and as well as staff gets an opportunity to discuss the items out there. More importantly, it allows the residents to hear our discussions, give feedback as well, and then it gives the board 2 weeks to take all that feedback in, speak with more residents, and then come to the voting meeting with a more informed vote. Summer months, we did approve to have 1 meeting per month to allow for everybody to enjoy their summer, and some board members every once in a while too. But as we get into this period, we feel it is very critical that we do the 2 meetings per month, and there are critical issues that, of course, we know face our community. So with that in mind, the board had some items that we feel like we need to discuss, some things that we feel we need to kind of push forward, And again, most importantly, we still want to make sure that we're available so that residents can give their feedback, and then we can respond to the best of our abilities. So having said that, that's the reason for this meeting and the reason that we sit here today. Again, so grateful to see all mostly smiling faces, some frustration, and that's what we're here to work through. So glad to be here today. I'm going to pause, see if any board members have any comments or if there's anything they feel that I've missed in the course of that segment.
No, I'm good.
Okay. This meeting was called by 3 trustees as is required. 4 trustees, Trustee Tammy Brown, Trustee Kiana Belcher, myself, Trustee Brittany Norwood. So it is a legal meeting. The meeting has been posted 48 hours, actually on Friday, so 72 hours notice, and had been provided to the mayor's office, the administrator. This meeting is open to all individuals. This is not an attempt to further the divide, because everybody knows there is a divide. The reality is there are items that we look to put on agendas, and those items are not being added because of the mayor's refusal to move them forward. And as we know, some of those meetings can get pretty tense, and sometimes the discord leads to back and forth that makes all of us look less than professional. So having said that, I'm going to move directly into items on our agenda. So old business, which is something that had been presented before, it was vetoed, and the veto had not been overridden, so we need to reintroduce this item for discussion. Item is an approval of an ordinance number 23-012, which is an ordinance establishing rules and regulation for the Freedom of Information Act with responses within the village.
002, you said.
I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Ordinance is 23-002. So I will make the motion that we proceed with approving ordinance number 23-002 and ask if there's a second.
Second.
Okay. Hearing it motion and seconded, I'll turn. Clerk, did you have any comments you want to make on this?
Yeah, just basically, this is the FOIA ordinance where it would hold people accountable for not responding to FOIAs. It's creating rules and regulations as to how FOIAs should be handled at the village. I don't know if you guys are aware, we have had several lawsuits because of not responding to FOIAs. So moving forward, if someone decides not to respond to a FOIA based on this ordinance, they will have consequences. And so we need this we needed it months ago, but it was overruled, vetoed by the mayor. And so we're trying to overturn that veto so that we can move forward with this ordinance.
Okay. Any discussion? Yes.
Yeah, clerk, when you say consequences, does that mean that it affects the clerk's office or it affects that office?
It will affect anyone who refused to provide information for ordinances. Let me step back for a minute. Even though the clerk's office is responsible for FOIAs, we do not maintain all the records of the village. Therefore, we have to reach out to department heads to provide various information. In fact, the majority of the information comes from department heads. So when they do not turn that information in, individual can contact the Attorney General's office and file a complaint against us. And those complaints typically lead to lawsuits. And trust me, the village cannot afford multiple lawsuits based on FOIAs not being responded to. And so this would hold this would hold individuals who do not turn that information over to us. They will be held accountable for not turning it over.
Okay. Does that answer your question?
I just wanted clarification so that the residents can understand what's going on.
Okay.
Because obviously we know that at the beginning of this, they were instructed not to respond. And they were instructed by village administrator, mayor, and so forth. So those people should also be held accountable because they feel like their jobs are on the line when they go against their boss, I guess, basically. So I wanted just for the residents to know. When you say consequences, that means anybody that is help circumventing the FOIA system. So that means, that's I just wanted to be
And
clear
just
about that.
give you an idea of what those consequences can be. Say, for instance, they did not respond to a FOIA and someone sued and we have to pay them. Then we can require that employee to reimburse us for whatever that lawsuit was for because of non-compliance. So that's an example of how they can be held accountable.
And the FOIA is, because she's saying FOIA, Freedom of Information.
Freedom of Information Act.
So if
For
you
those
see
who
like
may
that-
not know, I'm so used to saying FOIAs, I apologize.
Freedom of Information Act. That's it. That's all I got.
Okay. And if I can, additional, I think recently, so for Freedom of Information requests, previously there was a link on the Village of Dalton's website for individuals who wanted information that through transparency we are supposed to provide. That link has been removed from the website within the most recent 3 weeks, 4 weeks?
Yeah.
About 3 weeks.
About 3 to 4 weeks. So clerk, if you don't mind, would you elaborate on what process people should go through to, if they do have a request for freedom of
Yes.
information?
So, as I mentioned in the last board meeting, because that link was removed, I gave out my email address as well as the deputy clerk, and I can give it to you today if you did not get it, where you can file a FOIA directly through our office, and we're going to continue to do our jobs. Whether they respond to them is a different matter, but we will continue to take in FOIAs. We will log them into our GovQA program, which is a system that helps us keep track of all the FOIAs that come in, what type of response we get, whether we get one or we don't. We have documentation. We can print a report that shows exactly how that FOIA was handled. So my email address is akey, K-E-Y, @vodalton.org. Aris Montgomery is AMONTGOMERY @vodalton.org. Eris is actually the person who maintains the FOIAs and things of that nature. You can send them to me or her. I know sometimes her name is so long you may not get it all, but anything that comes in, she and I will work on those together. So it doesn't matter which email you send it to, we will follow the proper channels to get it, to get your answers.
Okay. So, any additional discussion?
No, we're good.
Okay, hearing none. Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Trustee Norwood?
Aye.
Trustee Tammy Brown?
Aye.
Trustee Jason House?
Aye.
And Trustee Kiana Belcher.
All right.
So this motion passed again.
Thank you. And then I do have one housekeeping thing that I want to make sure I do not overlook. I want to give a thanks to Dalton Park District for allowing us use of this space. We know that many times you would think that for a board meeting we would have it at Village Hall, but as has been advertised, the Board of Trustees do not have access to that. And again, I always say, more importantly, that means the residents do not have access to something that they are paying their taxes for. So I do want to acknowledge our executive director in the back, Stephanie Wiederman. Our 3 commissioners, Kyle, Rochelle. Everybody knows Kyle. All right, y'all, we're family. We can be family in here. I know it's serious business. Commissioner Willis Harris. And the wonderful Commissioner Sandra Wells. So, in my haste in being here, forgive me for being late, but I did overlook that. I did not want to do that, and I want to say to DJ Gold Groover, I don't see how I forget you sometimes, but it's not that. All right. That's right. Okay. Next on the agenda is an approval of the ordinance number 23-012, adopting an appropriation budget for the Village of Dalton and Cook fiscal year of 2023 and 24. On this item, I just want to have discussion only versus the approval that's on here. and I will elaborate. Our budget, our fiscal year starts May 1st. By May 1st, the Village of Dalton should have a budget in place, so that way we know when we're doing our spending that we're following a template or a guideline. The county allows us a 3-month grace period, which is by July 31st, we should have it into the county, or we face potential consequences of our property tax revenue not being given to the Village of Dalton. In our case, both dates have passed, and we are without a budget at this time. So, at least to the board's knowledge, there have been no actions taken against the village at this time. However, we want to make sure that we proceed to get a budget passed, and we've asked the administration to give us a budget. We've given them time. The typical way, the mayor's office would present a budget to the board would have discussion, and then either we agree or we'll tell them to go back to the drawing board so we can come up with something that we feel can be approved. The only budget that's been presented to the board was a budget that had a $1 million deficit in our operating account, or our general funds account. The board, well, majority of board members, the board members that sit here before you, are not okay with a budget or anything that is going to cause us a deficit. With that in mind, we've given the request and demand that the mayor's office and the team come back with a budget that is balanced. That way it's something that they've worked out and they know the parameters. Since then, we've got nothing back, and we now feel the need that we have to push forward. We've had several meetings. The administrator held a meeting discussing their budget proposal. As a board of trustees, we've held some meetings discussing their proposal, and we've started working through the process of making the adjustments on our own, and without getting the cooperation from the administration, getting the documents to line up the way they're supposed to and make sure everything is done properly has taken a little bit longer. So what I do have with us today, I have a list of items that we are looking to adjust off of the original budget. We will make those adjustments. I do have a list for anybody that I had 25, but I think we have a little bit more than that. So I have this list here that anybody can come post meeting. I'll share with, of course, board members. But I had shared, this has previously been shared as well. So I'll kind of read through some of these items, keeping in mind that the original proposed budget had a $1 million deficit. And this is just for our discussion, as we have the documentation lined up, which we expect to have, I would say within a week. We'll see if we can get it on the agenda with the mayor's office. And if they refuse, we will have to call another special meeting to get a formal approval. So that way we can make sure, as the board, we've done our due diligence because the administration refuses to do so. So some of the items that we have listed on here from the revenue standpoint, they over budgeted for property taxes by, or in our estimation, by $104,000. So we're looking at reducing that budget line item by $104,000. Who would like that?
He wants. You want all of them?
All of them?
So you're
Okay.
gonna make copies.
You make some copies? All right, well, give us what you got and then make copies if you don't mind, please. All right. Okay. The home rule sales tax line item we feel was over budgeted by $114,000. Business license revenue was budgeted too high by $55,000. And I'm saying business license revenue, that's a key one because many people are aware that business licenses are not being renewed in the proper fashion. Yet when we looked at the budget or the proposed numbers, they were budgeted at a higher rate than we've received so far. Other permits were budgeted over by $2,500, parking fines by $61,000, overweight truck fines over budget by $490,000, municipal collections over budget by $900,000. In total revenue adjustments, there was a reduction of $3,047,509. That's to what the actual proposed budget. In terms of expenses, I'll read through a few. The total adjustments that everybody will see on their sheet of paper is a reduction of $4,089,850. Some of the bigger items that we look to reduce on the budget are overtime salaries for $1.2 million. And I'll tell you, as a board, we talked about this before any articles, any news came out. The reality is, in years past, we used to budget $600,000, no more than $700,000 for overtime. Last fiscal year, we spent $1.6 million on overtime.
Tell them what department.
That's in the police department.
Right,
That does
department.
not include overtime for public works or the fire department. Other items that we looked at, a reduction for the number of lease payments at $210,000, overtime and salaries for fire department, $800,000. Other professional services, a reduction of $232,000. So in summation,
What about that one?
it would be, and then a reduction in the expense for the City of Chicago judgment and that was reduced to be more realistic with the budget. So the summary of So in summary, the reduction of expenses is $4,089,850, leaving a net impact on the budget of a $1 million difference to account for the deficit that the administration projected. So as we're able to get these figures onto an actual budget document that can be distributed, we will do that first, and then we will look to vote on that, so that way everybody can look at the same documentation that we're looking at. But not having that in hand, we did not want to push forward with an official vote, but we do want to keep the community informed that we are aware of the status, and even though the administration, finance department are not making this a priority, it is still something that we're looking to move forward. I will pause and ask any board members any comments or thoughts they have on this item.
Just in general. So in regards to the budget, this is a matter of the administration not compromising. It's really simple. We all know that every year this has to be done. So the responsible way would be doing it go about it. I mean, in the previous years, before I was even on the board, I remember the mayor having several different budget meetings with the community, so the community is all aware. Prior to them doing so, they would sit with their council, they would show the council what they have, their thoughts, and then as a whole, they discuss taking some items out, what's more important in regards to spending, prioritizing. You always hear the mayor state, well, once you have the budget, we can just spend whatever we want in the budget and we don't need any other approval. That's far from the truth, because that's the purpose of us voting every month on the bills. The budget is just an idea or a blueprint for how the money is supposed to be spent. But the transparency is where, if you know that the board has to vote on these items, and we're saying, hey, we don't want to vote on the deficit, because everyone knows no one will vote on a deficit for their household bills, right? It just really wouldn't make any sense. So instead of them compromising and us trying to figure it out, them trying to figure it out with us, we have to use this method. And there's a lot of concerns. I mean, especially the overtime. We keep saying the overtime, the overtime. We see the public works, we see the police, we see the fire department, we see them on all of these events, and we say time and time again, even if there are events in Dalton that we're not paying for per se, we're still paying for it when we have our departments over there instead of at the fire department or patrolling the streets or wherever they're supposed to be at the moment. So that's a major concern, the overtime and this whole entire transparency when it comes to spending the money. I say time and time again, the responsible way to go about this would be them presenting, before they decide to tell a contractor to do some work, they should come to the board, they should present RFPs so that the residents will know also exactly how we're choosing these vendors to come and do the work. That way, it ensures that we have the best pricing, we're getting the best bang for our bucks, and everyone is on board in regards to the spending. We keep saying we're in a deficit and it's time to prioritize. It's not saying that we don't want to cut additional trees and additional grass, but prioritizing is very important. It's important that we decide what's most important. I know that we all have flooding and several different issues in ways that we would like the money, we'd like to see the money being spent. So I just want to say, personally, I'm hoping that moving forward, the administration is more transparent and they can let us all know what will be spent ahead of time, so that every meeting we're not saying no and then there's an uproar and we're not constantly getting surprised with items that's on the warrant list. We're hoping that they can present them to us prior to, so the board can make a decision. We can all see the RFPs being done, the residents, we can all hear the voting taking place, so it's all fair, and then we can move forward. So that's the goal, but until then, we'll diligently work towards seeing what we can do as a council to try to get some hold of this spending so that we're not going further and further into that. That'll be all for me. Thank you.
I have one thing, just to piggyback off of what Trustee Norwood said, it's just to silence the people. You're supposed to have 3 meetings with the public so we can decide as a whole as to how this budget is going to go. So of course they're not going to have 3 meetings because they don't want the input from anybody. They don't want the input from you guys. They don't want the input from us. You're supposed to have 3 meetings. We stated that at the town hall, supposedly, finance meeting. And we haven't had anything since. But just to silence us as people so we don't have any input into how our dollars are being spent. Again, you must remember, these are our tax dollars. So we should have an input as to how our money is being spent. As she said, for infrastructure, look what's happening to us now. Flooding everywhere in Dalton. That's because we did not spend under that COVID-19 money like we should have. When we got that $3.5 million, even if we didn't finish, we could have started in the hardest hit areas when we got that money. So again, it's just to silence us from being involved. And that's the administrator stated last year, where the mayor didn't sign off on the budget. We don't need the mayor to sign off on the budget. As you see, we still got that budget passed for 23, and we're going to have to do the same thing for 24. Just sign off on it, get this budget together with the residents, and move forward. But it has to be what we want as a whole, not what she wants.
Thank you, Trustee. Trustee Belcher, any comments? No. Okay, so that was not an action item for vote at this time, so I want to thank all board members for their comments. I'll move to the next item on the agenda is approval of the meeting minutes for the special board meeting from Monday, April 24th, 2023. I'll ask for a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
I make a motion.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Belcher, second by Trustee Tammy Brown. Any discussion?
Just to let you guys know why this is on the agenda. Typically, when the board have meetings such as these, and I prepare the minutes, the mayor would not allow them to go on the agenda to be passed. So we have to bring those minutes back to a special board meeting to get them passed so that it can go on record. Because she doesn't believe in these meetings. They are legal meetings, but she will not approve the minutes, so I have to come back to a special board meeting to get the minutes passed. And we haven't had a special board meeting in a while, so that's why it's on the agenda today for April 24th.
Thank you very much. Okay. Any additional discussion?
No.
Hearing none, please call the roll.
Trustee Norwood?
Aye.
Trustee Tammy Brown?
Aye.
Trustee Mayor Pro Tem Stanton? Trustee House?
Aye.
Trustee Belcher?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
So for new business, approval of an ordinance number 23-013, an ordinance amending Title III of Chapter 1 Business License and Permits Provisions of the Municipal Code of the Village of Dalton. I'll ask for a motion to approve the item 23-013. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion trustee Norwood, second.
Aye.
Okay. So second by trustee Brown. Just a brief summary of this item. As we know, business licenses are being, for lack of a better word, attacked, or the process is not being made clear. And as we try to bring them up in the board meetings, it's quickly tried to be swept under the rug for silence. With that being said, the board is looking at an ordinance that will request or require that all new business licenses will be submitted to the board for approval, and then approval should be notated within 14 business days. It also has a provision in here that should there not be a decision within the 14 business days, businesses are allowed to continue to operate until the village does its responsibility of making a formal approval or denial. So that is the reason that this was presented and brought forward. This is one step towards in the process. As we go further in, we know that approving is the first step, implementation is the next step. So we do want to make sure that we have a law on the books that we can pursue with the enforcement, but it starts first. We want to make sure that the business community knows that we've been hearing and been suffering as well. We've been suffering as well, and we really do care, and we want to try to find other remedies to move things forward. So having said that, any discussion?
I'd like to make a statement.
Trustee Belcher.
Good evening, everyone. So, with this ordinance, a lot of business people have contacted us, various different reasons, but I'm a numbers person. So I took the liberty of just pulling up, because when it initially started, it started with the liquor license and gaming. And I took the initiative to go on the Illinois State Gaming License. Anybody can pull it up, just to see the revenue of what we're missing. And I put from April 2023 to August 2023, just so I'll be fair of how long it's been that these businesses have been out of either have not gotten their license, have not gotten them renewed. Last year we had, this is just the gaming. This does not include the business license itself. It does not include the liquor license, just the gaming. We're losing $54,000 with the gaming, $75,000 average a month. Wow. So you see these inflated numbers and you're like, okay, but for someone that wants to spend, then you start getting all these, you're closing stuff down and taking away businesses, but it's killing us by the revenue that we need to sustain in the community. And just looking at this is only based on a 5-month period. This is not even a whole year. This is based on the 5. It doesn't include the liquor license, because with the liquor license, you can't have gaming unless you have liquor. It's state law. Then you have the business license. So when we start that adds up. And we're constantly, now all these people are, and I'm sure somebody's seen it, getting these $500 fine because they're trying to find other avenues of getting the money, because you've made an impulse decision and now it's hurting us because we're not getting the revenue that we normally would get. And it's not fair to the community, it's not fair to the businesses, and at this point it's in one person's hand, but it's harming all of us. So I just wanted to put on record that right now there are 9 establishments that are not active with their gaming, meaning that they have a liquor license too and a business license, that has, just saying right now as of September, we're almost $200,000 and some in the hole. That $200,000 make a difference, because these lavish parties that go on every week cost. So when people just see the numbers, and it's public information, but when people just see the numbers, you can see that although it may sound like it's really not a lot, if you have multiple businesses that's not running and being established, we're not even talking about sales tax or any other revenues. We're just talking about the basic fees of having in the community, we're losing that revenue. And it's not fair to us. That's it.
Thank you, Trustee Belcher. Any other board members have comments?
Just one other thing, as she stated, you think about, and the gaming money is paid out monthly. Monthly, those gaming money is paid out monthly. And that amount changes monthly. The more that the person plays inside that establishment, the more that could possibly come to the village as payout as far as tax money. So this is monthly revenue that we're losing. Also, if these businesses cannot be open, they can't pay property taxes. That's another set of revenue that we're losing. Just down the street, the Sir Isaac Walton, which is down there, 147th and Beachview, pays $80,000 in property tax. If they're not open, how are they going to be able to pay their property taxes? That means they're going to have to move. If people can't pay the business can't pay the property taxes or have business licenses, they're going to leave Dalton. They're going to leave Dalton. If I can't run my business, what's the sense of me staying here? You got to make money in order to pay money. If they're not open, we're losing all the way around. So we got to get a hold of this business license and take it out of her hand. We're going to be bankrupt here if we don't find a solution with all this overtime that we're paying. Not only for police, but public works as well, and fire. So we got to have some type of revenue generated here.
Yeah. Okay. So, as I said, two other add-ons. I think was another thing that may get lost in the shuffle we don't want to overlook is all the employees that work at these establishments and how it affects their day-to-day living, their livelihoods. And we really feel like if there is a review, then let's do the review. It should be open, transparent. If a business, I'm not advocating that a business not operating properly should remain open. We're talking about business people who are coming, and we see them month after month at the board meetings, come in begging just to get a status update. You think I'm gonna beg you if I'm out of compliance? These are people that have had businesses in this community 10 plus years that we feel like if there's an investigation that needs to go on, so be it. The businesses should remain open until that investigation is concluded. And if there is, for any reason, an oversight or something that was done, they should be given time to bring it up to compliance. We really want to stress these fees and fines and everything else. It's not about, it should not primarily be about revenue. It's about compliance, everybody being good community citizens, and then moving this community forward. So having said that, any additional comments?
Yeah, just maybe it all goes back to the lack of transparency. I just think it's unfair for someone to tell a business, because we see it time and time again, so many businesses are calling me, and we feel helpless for them when the only answer they're given is, oh, it's under review. So they're being treated just like us, right? We've been treated like this for quite some time, so we're used to it at this point. But for the businesses, they're just as confused because they're saying, hey, tell me something, give me an answer. They say that they continue to call the attorneys, they continue to go to the village, time and time again. One business owner said that he's been to the village every day for the last 2 or 3 months, and no one's ever there to answer his concerns, to address his concerns. They tell him to contact the attorney, and then when they contact the attorneys keep telling him that they're not in the office. They're not in the office. So again, it's the way that we're conducting the business in regards to the administration. We're hoping, even for their sake, that they could provide them with some transparency also, because ultimately it's not just about us as a council, not just about us as residents. The business is an intricate part of the community. So we all are asking for the same thing, which is transparency. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, hearing from all members, I'll ask Clerk Keys to do a roll call, please.
Sure. Trustee Norwood?
Aye.
Trustee Tammy Brown?
Aye.
Trustee Jason House?
Aye.
Trustee Belcher?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Okay, next item on the agenda is discussion and possible approval. This will be a discussion item only, our intergovernmental agreement with Dalton Park District regarding issuance of building permits. This item was mentioned, we are in discussions with members of the Park District Board, the president. The Park District is experiencing difficulties with getting building permits for developments that they want to do to bring infrastructure improvements to the village of Dalton. So, hate to put you on the spot here. Ms. Wiederman, would you mind talking about some of the challenges that have occurred and maybe one or two projects that the Park District is putting forward? Because this item, the agreement we're looking for is similar to the last one, where we want to do an agreement that if the Park District were to come for a building permit, they can proceed even pending some review process, because the information that's been given to them, to my knowledge, is it's under review, and it's been under review for many months. But if you can elaborate, please.
So pertaining to Rucker Park, Rucker Park is formerly Triangle Park on 154th and Greenwood. We are looking to put a concrete slab down there for a fitness court. We've been trying to get the permit since mid-May. They have been unresponsive, so we haven't had much luck there. Blackstone Park, we just went for permitting about 2 weeks ago. They have not responded to that contractor yet. We have a project going there that will put a track in, a new park, a pavilion. Town and Country and the main park, we are going to be replacing the entire, playground. We have not gone for permitting yet for that one because we're not far enough along in the project yet. But if we can work through the problems we're having right now with Blackstone and Rucker Park, we would assume that the following ones would maybe not be an issue. So we either get no response at all, or actually, we've just gotten no response at all.
Okay.
There is no denial, they just do not respond.
Okay, thank you very much, I appreciate it. So yeah, we're working through what an intergovernmental agreement would look like. So at this time, we do not have anything to be put forward, but I'll ask any board members if they have comments or thoughts on this item before proceeding to the next item. Comments, thoughts? Hearing none, we're going to table that one, and then we will move to our final item for approval. This is just seeking a settlement approval agreement for Hudson versus the Village of Dalton on a case that has been pending for multiple years that has been discussed. This is a litigation matter still, so the settlement agreement has to be approved by both sides before we can release all of the details, but we have to get a formal approval. So we've put this on the doctrine for tonight. I'll say it's less than $100,000, is much less than $100,000 on the agreement, but we have to get the formal court approval before we can release all the details. But having said that, I'll make a motion for approval of the settlement agreement, Hudson versus Village of Dalton.
Second.
Okay, it's been motioned and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask Clerk Key for a roll call.
Trustee Norwood.
Aye.
Trustee Tammy Brown.
Aye.
Trustee House.
Aye.
Trustee Belcher.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Okay, and that brings us to item 6 was executive session. We just put that on there in the event that there were any items that needed to go into executive session. We have none at this time, so we will now go to public comment. What I'll do is we will go row by row for anybody that may have comments. So as we get to the row, if you don't mind, just raise your hand, please make your comment or question, and we'll do our best to resolve.
Ooh, go this way.
So we'll start this way with Ms. Rainey.
I want to know, how can you balance a budget when you got a deficit? How can you do that?
You're not supposed to. It's not the proper way to balance a budget. In rare occasions, people may do a deficit if you're investing in a big project that you expect to bring money years down the line. That would be the only way I would see that you do it. But then you have to be transparent in terms of why you're doing it. In this case, we've been given a budget, and it's a deficit, and it says, hey, these are all the parties we need to throw, so we're going to do it, and we're asking for an approval, and the board disagreed. Okay. Any additional questions? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
I noticed there was funds last April 2022 from Tammy Brown. She approved $1.5 million to, what's that, Dalton Riverdale, and also for the water, issue. So where did that money go?
To date, that money has not come to Dalton, and that should be a pass-through program where the money should be sent, well, and I should say, I don't believe the money is ever really to be directly given to Dalton. It's for us to allow access to Dalton for infrastructure, but that will be overseen at the federal level for improvements.
Okay, and in regards to the streets, now I've noticed that, excuse me, there are some streets that were paved and some was just patchwork. And I placed a couple of requests in for Kembark to be paved, and they just continue to just patchwork. So do I continue to send requests?
What's the block?
Excuse me?
What block is it?
Kembark. 147 all the way to, all the way to Lincoln.
Okay, we'll see if there's follow-up we can do. Yes, sir?
Yeah, I have two. One, I know you all mentioned about the ticket. There's been a lot of bogus tickets being written because I called twice and it wasn't the police. No disrespect to the seniors, but I believe they have a group of older women that jump out and they just periodically write tickets, and they don't check anything. They don't check to see if you're a resident. They don't check to see if it's a rental car. How can you write a ticket on a vehicle that's out of state for not having a Dalton City sticker? Okay, and then this is how absurd it is. Then when you call there, oh, that's just Miss Mayberry, she about ready to retire. I say that's unacceptable, because if the ticket blows off the car, now you don't have a chance to refute the ticket unless you get it in the mail. So you're causing a problem for the resident or even somebody that's visiting. And this has been on several occasions when they jump out, the senior squad, they just write tickets all over the place. They write tickets all over the place, and then they try to say well maybe she didn't have her glasses. But that's understandable. You know, this is the absurdness that you get when you call and they say, well, we'll take care of it. We'll take care of it, don't worry about it. Okay? And I'm really upset about that. I almost forgot to get my second thing. You had to come back to me because you just got off work and you unplugged and they just writing tickets all over the place and not even checking anything. I think it's a procedure where you're supposed to check the registration of that vehicle before you write the ticket. That's fair. So how many people are paying these bogus tickets and not even checking?
A lot, a lot.
No, well, so I want to thank you for your comment, and before I start jumping in so quickly all the time, I want to yield if board members have comments. Okay. So, I mean, the most important thing, of course, is due diligence. No, there is a process that people are supposed to follow. They should be checking the registration and not writing it. I do want to give clerk's office and the other board members too, but with the assistance of the clerk's office, we really have been doing a lot of looking through ordinances to assist individuals with getting the proper documentation on what's right and what's not correct, so that they're able to, if it's incorrect, they can have the documents needed to go in and fight it. If it is a legal and legitimate fee, then of course, again, this is about compliance. This is not trying to get around the law. If somebody is incorrect, then they should, face whatever that consequence is. But in some of the situations you mentioned, if it's incorrect, then they should be provided with the documentation to back up their position.
And I remember the other one. You mentioned the American Freedom of Information Act and transparency. Well, the American Civil Liberties Union would take that case pro bono. They did it, and they helped with the requirement of Donald Act. They refused to release the video of the shooting of that young man, and they kept pressing. They kept pressing. That's what got Rahm Emanuel out, because he was the one, once he realized what had happened, it was a big cover-up. So as they kept pressing, like you're pressing, it caused all kind of stuff. But they had help. That one reporter, Green just didn't do that on his own. He got help from the American Civil Liberty Union, because they will take the case pro bono if somebody's hiding something. They love that. It's like bees to the honey. They will take that case and they will flush you out.
Thank you very much. Okay, so, I don't know. First we're going to come to the second row, sir.
I have a question, and it may be me, but I tried to get onto the YouTube video of the September 5th meeting, and I tried it on my TV. I thought the video was, but it said, I get on it, and it just says, please be patient. Now, I don't know, and I'm a very patient individual. But then I thought, well, maybe it's the new way I was going at it. So I went on the village website to the YouTube and clicked on it, and I got the same.
It might not be posted.
And not only that one, but even any one of the, at least a few meetings that I looked at, it just says, please be patient. Okay. It's just a new way of not letting me see it.
So we were gonna.
Okay.
Yeah, let's check. Same thing. Okay. I mean, we'll look into it, Trustee.
The key thing on YouTube,
right,
it's a little tricky. When you go to it first, it won't pop up. You gotta go to the live. It's not on the regular video tab. You gotta go to the live stream. It's gonna be right up on the live stream. They haven't taken none of them down. So you gotta go to YouTube. When you go to your first YouTube page, it's gonna come up Kirk. The first video is the racist awareness about turn. That's the first thing that pop up. You gotta make sure you click on the live, even if you're on the TV, make sure you go to the live tab, and all the live streams will pop up. It's a little tricky, you know, because when somebody called me and said, "You should delete all the meetings," I said, "Wait, look," but I had to go to the live tab.
Just in the search engine, put in Village of Dalton Live.
Okay. Thank you.
For this gentleman, I live about 2 blocks, a block and a half down, and for a long time I was coming up and down to the park every morning to walk, and there are cars parked out there at 6 o'clock or 6:30 every morning that don't have Dalton sticker, some other sticker on it, and they live there, so those cars should get they're too lazy and don't want to pay for the sticker.
Yes.
No,
I agree. And again, I say compliance. We're not advocating that nothing should be paid, but we do think that everybody doing things right should not be fined. Any additional questions? We're coming second row.
Yeah. Has there ever been a balance sheet done on grant money that supposedly have come into the village, and all the projects that have been done that she says were based on grant money, and see what the out of balance amount is?
You never see that. It's been we've asked for that. You don't get it.
Yeah. So you have no idea how much grant money actually got deposited?
Nothing.
No, we do get the monthly financial reports.
It's not there.
It doesn't break out. It does not break it out. Grant money versus expenses, but it does let you know if grant monies come in. And we have not seen grant money outside of what's that? The CDBG, right, which is a grant that we typically get. Now, when we go in the meetings, routinely we'll hear, we're paying for that with grant money. We got the money. And the routine response is, please post it on the internet. Please post it somewhere we can see it. And in many cases for grants, that information, the keeper of the records is the clerk's office, which means that once voted, the final sign-off and stamp is the clerk's stamp and signature. So in addition to looking at the financial records, we also go to the official records that are for the Village of Dalton, and the only grants to date that I'm aware of are the CDBG grants. Oh, ma'am, we're going row by row if that's okay, and we'll come back. Yes, please.
So in regards to the grant money, which is funny because we received in regards to the COVID money, $3 million. So the goal was to vote on the first 1.5 million and then the second 1.5 million. The mayor presented with the first 1.5 million, so much money was supposed to be allotted for the businesses, so much money was supposed to be allotted for the windows, for the roofs, and that's where we had that big situation once before, right? Because we heard one thing about it when it was presented to everyone, and then we no longer heard anything else in regards to the grant money. So the second disbursement for the second remaining of the 1.5 million, we never voted on. So I'm always confused when we sit in the meetings. She said, "Oh, we're starting the windows and roofs back up," and we're like, and I'm thinking in my mind, we didn't vote on anything, so I really don't understand how that's all supposed to take place, right? Because we have to have plans for that 1.5, and for me, I would suggest that 1.5 go towards infrastructure. So that would be my vote, but it hasn't even been presented to us. And that's what I mean when I say, okay, here we are with the lack of transparency. So what happened, and which we'll all see, I'm sure, within the upcoming months, there'll be some big plan that we're not privy to, and then it'll be presented at the meeting, and then it'll say, oh, this is for you all, and then once the board says, okay, well, no, that's not the plans, that's not what we suggest for the money, it's going to be a big dilemma. So that's part of the whole thing when we say the lack of transparency has to stop. It has to be put to an end because, again, we have $1.5 million out there that we know nothing about in regards to the plans for it. We never voted on the plans. You all haven't heard us say anything in regards to the plans because it hasn't been presented to us. So sometimes when you all see, oh, well, why would they vote down for windows? Why would they vote down for roofs? We actually voted for that first 1.5 million to go towards those things. We weren't opposed to it. The problem is always with this administration, how it takes place. We can't say, okay, we're going to put $500,000 towards windows and roofs, and then we never hear about it again. Then someone says, okay, we're going to put $2,500 towards the roof, and then we look on the warrant list, and one person has $13,000 for their roof, another person has $15,000 for their roof. If we do it like that, how do we evenly disperse that amount? And that's our frustration at all times when you see us having this big debacle when it comes to the money. You notice every meeting, once it comes time to vote on the bills, there's about to be a discrepancy. We know that we're about to be belittled at that very moment, guys, right? So when you all hear, when they don't want roofs, they don't want windows, we're not opposed to any of these things, but there has to be a system put in place so we know exactly how the money is being spent and exactly where the money is going. Thank you, Trustee Hunt.
Thank you. Oh, yes, Trustee Belcher.
So just for lack of, I'm gonna say, transparency that we receive from our administrator, what I can say is they've been very diligent about putting stuff in my viewpoint. So I'm making my business to go see what they're viewing. And Greenwood Falls has roughly cost us over $1 million with no income coming in. So we host this Greenwood Falls, yes, it looks very nice. She didn't epoxy the floor probably or whatever, but there's not a stream of revenue coming in from Greenwood Falls. So when people say, oh, she doing stuff, it's gonna be on the backs of our taxes because no grants, as Trustee House has said, that we can verify have come in, and that money comes out. So when we keep saying deficit, and I said in the last board meeting, I had a meeting with Trustee Stan Brown and the finance director. And when I asked her about a couple of things that were going on, she said, well, we're in a fiscal deficit. A deficit is a deficit. I don't care if you call it a fiscal or tomorrow or yesterday, it's a deficit. And it's not fair when people see all the glitz and glamour like she's doing stuff, but you have to realize that it's not approved, how much it's costing us, and who's gonna pay for it at the end. I'm not here to judge anybody, but I'm sure about 80 or 90% of y'all pay taxes and she renting her house. So she's not even paying or suffering what we're suffering from. It's not to shade or, do anything. It's facts. It's facts. So for someone to keep saying, all this money is coming in and we're asking where's the money at because we're not seeing it. And she said, y'all see the bank accounts? Yeah, we see the bank accounts. We have a gentleman that came into a meeting and said he was going to sue us personally. That's what he said, the guy from Five Star. I'm going to sue y'all personally. Okay, now the money is approved and you sending us emails talking about some, well, y'all can go on the payment plan. Why? You said you was going to sue us. So now if the money is there, so y'all say, and the mayor said it's there, why don't you take your money and go? Now you want to be on the payment plan. I ain't never known nobody that want to be on the payment plan when your money been approved to get a whole $1.2 million. It makes no sense, and it's not fair to us as the trustees. It's not fair to you as the residents because it's not being disclosed to how it actually is. So nobody wakes up and be like, oh, what are we going to do today? How are we going to get it? That's not the case. These are our financial dollars. I go to work, but I don't want to go to work just to pay bills all my life. And especially living in a community where we have probably about 23 officers. I'm paying $8,000 in taxes and 6 of them walking around with you and going on trips. That's not fair. So I'm passionate about this, and I think y'all know the board is because it's our money. Yes. This is our money we work for. Yes. So this has nothing to do with nobody personally. This is running the municipality on the straight and narrow and not sitting here thinking that you got an open pocketbook, because if this was at your house, you would not be doing that. That's it.
Thank you. Okay, I think we're concluding the second row of Ms. Williams. I want to give I do this all the time. Ms. Amisha Williams. I want to thank Ms. Amisha Williams that many of you may know, some may not. Former employee for the Village of Dalton, did fantastic work in the building and permits department. So many of the items that we discussed, she has a very unique knowledge of, and is here because she, like us, all love this community, live here, and want to make it better. Do you have any comments since I put you on the spot? No. So, okay. All right. So we're going third row. Okay. Sorry, we're coming right. You're the row right behind them. We're coming to you right after that.
Mary?
Mary, no? Okay, oh, third row. Hearing nothing. The gentleman in green shirt.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Oh, we did. Did I miss you? I'm sorry, Ms. Naomi.
Okay, I wanted to mention about businesses opening up. Are they opening up, or are you just making a proclamation of probably in the near future that they'll be opening up? Are they opening business right now and they started? Or are you just putting it up just for discussion?
Well, we put it for discussion. We put it up for vote. The mayor has the ability to veto it, and then it will have to come up for veto override. Once it's overridden, assuming that that it's overridden, then we expect that the businesses will be allowed to move forward. That's our expectation. If the mayor takes the stance that she traditionally takes, she will disregard the ordinance. And then this will give the board the opportunity, if we choose to proceed with the lawsuit. It also gives the business owners additional legs to stand on as they pursue lawsuits. We have currently, to my knowledge, three active lawsuits that we know about regarding people that have not been able to get their business licenses, that have pursued temporary injunctions. And we want to be able to give those owners additional support in their fights to get this done and get it done quickly.
So it looks like to me it's another 3 or 4 months?
Likely, at least, yes.
The emergency fund, what is, here talking about emergency fund, what emergency fund is she talking about since the flood? She said that she has food and some other stuff.
That's probably from the town.
Potentially township, yes.
That's from the town.
Because she wears so many hats. that she talks so much that you don't know what she's talking about and who she's talking to. So that's why I'm asking that question. And the other thing is the permit for the park. How are you going to get the permit for the park? Did you vote on anything tonight?
On that, we did not vote. We're looking at doing an intergovernmental agreement. The Park District would also have to agree, but the language is intended to be a better working partner with the Park District.
Okay. And so your ordinance or whatever you're trying to put in place, is that would that be happening now? Are you trying to put something in place right now?
Our attorneys have not completed the document, so we did not vote on anything today, but we will be looking to push something forward.
And the fine for the fire lane, I really hate seeing that happen to people because even I go up here to Italian Fiesta and to the Chinese place, and I go up here and I have done it. And the only way I realized that I was doing something wrong was there was a sign in Italian Fiesta window asking people not to park there because they're fined. So my thing is, what is actually happening for the residents? It's not just us, it's the municipality, because we're not the only one in Dalton that come up here to Italian Fiesta. There are other people from other little villages and townships come up here also. So what is actually being done? Are we going to get the markers correct, or are you going to lower the fines?
So there's various discussions amongst the board. We've had some through the weekend, and I want to say when we have had some one-on-one, because we are not violating any Open Meetings Act violations. But we've had some discussion, and we will continue to look at what the right course is, because there's a couple of different components. There's the ticket, and then there's also how it's implemented and the proper way of doing that. So I know other board members had other thoughts on this too, but we are working to discuss this matter.
So about painting, putting a sign on the ground, or putting some better signs.
You want to check? Yeah.
I mean, how can you do that?
We took pictures, it's a sign up.
If it's, now, I'm first somebody says private property. So if it's private property, how can you give a ticket to someone?
You can't. I don't know what the home rule is, and I'd like to find out where I can get something for home rule, because law enforcement in Chicago cannot go on private property.
No, they can't.
And that mall is privately owned, just like Jewel at 87th Street, using that as an example.
That's what the report
You
said.
have to have someone for a
The report
business
said it was private.
sign the ticket, hear the
I don't know
complaint.
if it's
So I don't know if home rule makes it any different.
And it was the same here. I had an accident with currency exchanges on Silver, and wanted the police officer to give me a ticket, because I really backed into it. And I didn't do no damage to her car. But he said he couldn't give me a ticket because it was on private property. And so he couldn't give me a ticket. So
you have a comment on your document?
So, it's a catch-22, y'all right or y'all not right. And I say that because, it is on private property, but it's a fire lane, meaning that the fire trucks have to have access to get to those businesses if something happens. So it is a fire lane. It says up there it's a fire lane. It says on the ground that it's a fire lane. So although it's on private property, it is still bound by the laws of parking in a fire lane, because
So
it's the lane that's covered, that people are being dropped off in it. So I think, well, and I'm just gonna say me, because we do have conversations. My issue is how it's being done. That's my issue of how it's being done, because if you're letting somebody out and you're going, you're dropping them off, you should be snapping pictures of it and then sending tickets. Versus if you're telling me I was parked there, you should have got out your car and walked and gave me the ticket if I was parked there, instead of snapping the picture. So my issue, Trustee Belcherone, is that it's how it's given. Now, it being a fire lane, we need to respect if something happens, we need our emergency vehicles to get to that and do whatever they need to do and not have cars in the way. So the private The parking lot is one issue, but the fire lane is what is the, you know, is what's
It's a concern.
I will say this, after that article on the Fox 32, I was out there today and no police was present. So, I sat out there for a while today and none was present. None was present, absolutely.
But people are telling, people in the
Yes.
are telling people, don't.
Yes, do not, and I told a couple of people, right, I told a couple of people, do not park, but I was there before this article came out, and I seen a police car sitting there, I'm watching her take the plate, I didn't know what she was doing, but evidently she was taking a picture of the plate. She never got out to tell anyone, as you would say, hey, you can't park here, this is a fire lane. She never got out of her car one time to tell anyone not to park there, which would be the common courtesy. Hey, you know, this is a fire lane, you can't park here. But instead, I guess she was writing down the place, and I didn't know at the time. But I went there today.
Can't get no money like that.
Right, and I sat there, and no police was present, at least for 40 minutes today. I sat out there.
All right, so we have thoughts on Ms. Natalie.
Oh, wait, I have one question. What's the status of paying our vendors like Mr. Woods that is here, the caterer? Their money that is due?
So the status is differs vendor by vendor. Mr. Woods, if you say specifically, has been approved, and the check has been signed and issued, and I say approved. Once a check is approved, and I'll walk through what happens. They present on the warrant list items for the board. The board will review it. We compare it to the budget to see if those items were in the budget. We look to see if there's something that, if there were RFPs done and things like that. For many items, the board approves. There are some items that were either unbudgeted or excessive, and the board will refuse. As long as that item's approved, then the check is cut. Myself, Clerk Key, will come within the same week. So if the board meets on Monday, generally it's Wednesday or Thursday, we come in and we sign the checks. We hand the checks back over to the finance manager, and then the finance manager is to issue those checks out. Because I believe, because of the money issues that we're having, all those checks are not being given out.
No, they're not.
And I'm saying that there are several vendors that have contacted and said they have not received payments. And when I'll say for myself, if I ask why there's no answer given to a trustee, and the vendors are trying to search for the finance manager. Now that's what's happening right now. There are some vendors that will come up, and if the board does not feel that they were budgeted items or RFPs were proper, if the board feels RFPs were not properly performed, or there's some other reason that that vendor is selected to be taken off the list, then that vendor is removed and they cannot move forward to having a check cut, issued, signed.
So do you think it's a situation where you all aren't approving my vendors, so I'm not going to cut the checks for your vendors?
No.
Very clearly. Wood did service for a tea with the trustees. But that's not my vendor, your vendor, or anything else. That is a process that the board is allowed to have. The board is allowed to have a community event, and the board is allowed to have that approved. And it's not unreasonable. In particular, if you compare that to $20,000 and $30,000 events that are presented to the board, and the board in most cases still approves it, because we're trying as best as possible to not have vendors caught up in the middle of things, but we also have to balance that with the reality that we have a budget that has to be approved. And we try to make sure that as best possible, vendors know, especially if it's over $5,000, it needs to come before, it needs to be an RFP done, it needs to come before the board, and it should be within our budget. Okay, so hearing that, okay, no, I'm still going row by row here. Was it Green? Wood, I'm coming to you next. Gentleman in green. Yeah, let me get Wood up. Yes, sir.
Thank you. My name is John Bay, I'm the owner of Pro Tree Service. First time I'm meeting you folks here. appreciate the time. I want to give a special shout out to, is there Miss Belcher here? Thank you for taking the phone call before, I appreciate that. I thought I'd come here, just not abrasive, came here on my own accord. I found a meeting for tonight on Facebook, so I came here on my own just to ask a few questions. Speaking with Ms. Belcher, I asked some questions with the administration of public works people. Because you folks have paid your bill for July, and then when the September bill came, you passed on it. It was $155,000. I was told that the money's there, that's just politics. I'm the dumbest guy in the world when it comes to politics.
Just for clarity, who told you that? Okay. Well, nobody here, right? Nobody here said that. Okay. Okay.
I was assured anyone to keep working. I had text messages to keep working. Your bill that's going to go on your warrant list for next week is an additional $226,000.
God damn.
Your town is in arrears at $381,900 for tree trimming and tree removal. By the end of this week, we're over $400,000.
You gotta go and start cutting. Stop cutting.
We started another section of the city. I was told to start another section of the city, about 156 in University, I think it is, over there. Started. I have over $250,000 of my own money in your town to pay my people and all businesses. So I'm running on empty here. I was asked, like, what's the resolution? I was told that it's keep working. Sure, there's some money there. Now, I from the licenses over 90 communities in all of Northwest Indiana, North Barrington. I have 72 employees here, 11 crews. I've done work with more than half those communities. Rich, poor, and all in between. Never had for a community, never paid. Country club bills, my check's been approved for a sizable amount. That money will be in my house by the end of the week. I've done work for Village of Robbins, Barrington, Elsip, grew up in Elsip. When I was a kid, my parents divorced. I stayed with relatives here in Dalton, the 60s. I kind of feel like I'm part of the community. When your storms came through here this summer, my crews came Friday night, Saturday night to help some of these people. Some stuff had fallen on homes. I used my $500,000 crane to assist them. I didn't know there was such political infighting. There's political infighting and everything. I live in Mokina. Believe me, they fight over tulips, okay? I was going to ask, what's maybe a resolution? A lot of contractors threaten the lawyers and all that. I'm not that kind of guy that will go there, but if there's some sort of agreement where whatever the bill is, we can maybe space some payments out or something here. I mean, I'm willing to work with you. Most guys are coming in the door and not want to do it. Just ask.
I would love to respond. We had a conversation. You told me how much it was at the time. I told you you were not the only tree vendor on the flooring list. You told me that they asked you for an estimate of the whole city. Correct or incorrect?
They said, John, what do you think it'll take to finish this whole town? And I drove around on a Sunday for about 6 hours.
And please state the amount that you told me.
You're going to spend between $1.2 million and $1.8 million to trim the rest of your town.
And
at this stage.
And my comment was, stop your people. And on Saturday, they were on 154th and Deepman. So I'm only one voting body, but there's 4 people here. If someone is telling you that they have the money and they don't cut the check, and you call me in harness like this is my business, if I advise you that I'm a vote member and I say I think you should, stop right now, then everything you do now is volunteer in my eyes because I told you to stop.
I did. I questioned that. And somehow or another, I mean, you all talk, and They knew I spoke to you?
Yeah.
I didn't.
Oh, I don't know if they knew or anything, but.
I was told, John, don't worry, it's all.
Hey, good luck with that.
And are you sure? Now, they know these numbers is, I mean, their bills, they know that was coming before.
Can I?
They assured me that there's no problem with money.
So, right, so you know, what was sad to me, and I'm just one voting body, but what's sad to me is I respected you even calling me. I appreciated that, and I understood the conversation because you don't know that there's 3-4 other vendors on the tree trimming. So you don't know that.
I know Pekarsky.
But it's other, right, but I'm saying, if we're looking at $150,000 to you, 170 something to them, 200 to them, we can't afford $400,000 a month on cutting trees. So if you know that you speak to somebody and they say, okay, yeah, I think you should stop right now because we don't have any intention on continuing this, because at the end of the day, just like you said, you're going back to Mokina and we're going to be here $400,000 September's in the hole for some trees. And that's not fair to us. So even if they keep saying that they got the money, maybe you should cut it to township. Or maybe you should cut somewhere else, because Dalton does not have $400,000 a month to continue cutting trees. That's not in our fiscal budget.
I think that's clear. It's hard for him. He's actually questioning it now, even though he's hearing it, because the mayor is so convincing. If the mayor is telling you go ahead and do it as a business owner, you're like, well, the mayor said go ahead and do it.
I've only spoken to the mayor one time.
So with whoever in the administration. But what I'm saying is that's what makes it so hard, because they don't mind outright lying to you. Lying, not even soft lies. Them are hard lies to say we got the money, knowing they don't have it. Knowing they don't have it. Now these people that make decisions saying we don't have the money, now you're like, whoa. But that's what she does. She goes and spend the money and tell the residents, also all politics, they just hating on me. It's reality, and that's what's dangerous, that they'll lie. So it's not even, like I said, soft lies. These are hard lies. We got the money, and end up you got in the whole almost $500,000, and they know they don't have the money. That's so misleading, and that's dangerous. But she does that with everything, and the residents are torn because they like, the mayor's not going to lie to me like that. She's just not going to lie. It's amazing how much we put so much trust in the mayor's word. The mayor was just saying, well, she said it. She said the grant. She said the grant. So it's misleading. We see that play out right here. She said, we got the money, go ahead and do it. Man, that's dangerous.
I just want to comment on that as well. You think about it when you see 5 and 6 tree companies. When did you actually come in? Because you're in because Pekarsky agreed to stop bringing that big deal. What we were paying Pekarsky, we are trickled down. And that's the reason why you're here. Those guys said, we're no longer going to do this much work for you guys. We're going to make sure whatever type of work we do, that you're able to pay us. These people are 100-some thousand. The last bill was 7,000. So that tells you right there.
Let me give you a little.
Let me just say this. You bring in new people when the other people say, we're not getting paid. We're no longer going to do the work. And anytime a vendor asks for a deposit, you know there's trouble.
I didn't.
No, I'm just saying. No, I know you don't know that.
Bob keeps to himself, I keep to myself, we're competitors.
But I'm just saying, even if you look at Bob with the last year
was. Starting in June.
Right.
The mayor had a quote in her entourage that saw my guys working in town. And I got a phone call from my guys and said, hey John, we got some public officials here, we got a problem. I was in South Holland, so that I met the mayor and all of her people. It seemed at the time seemed like fine people. I don't know. She took me right around 151st and University, and she said we want our trees trimmed. And the public works people were all there.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
And she said, I want this all trimmed out to Cottage Grove. And I said, that's fine. I gave her a very fair price, the lowest of all your competition. And she asked me when I can start. I said, when would you want me to start? She said, tomorrow. Push my clients off. got a crew in here, at times you get 4 and 5 and 6 coaches at one time. Speed things up, not knowing that the other guys are so bad.
Right.
So, I mean, obviously, there's differences here, politics, I understand. If I'm, obviously, I'm gonna have to probably cease operations at some point.
Some point.
I mean, the reason why you definitely can't make a commitment, because as she said before, you got 5 tree trimmers, you got 7 lawn care people, you got 8 of these folks. We have to take in consideration, all these folks doing work, everybody wants to be compensated.
Now,
Everybody
you
wants
guys
to be
just had
compensated.
a big party somewhere here?
We don't have parties.
And it's like a picture of her with Rucker Jackson and stuff like that. And my landscaper, she asked for my landscaper. My landscaper came and tuned up all the landscaping and everything. And he's gonna submit a bill.
That's what I'm saying, again, here's another landscaper on top of the 7 we already have. I'm just gonna say from now on, the only thing I'm gonna say to that, excuse me, one last thing.
In this building, in this room, there are business people, and I've had a conversation. There's no contract, there's no RSA, the exact same things you're talking about. Who goes into this kind of money with no guarantees?
No contract.
Excuse me, I want you to elaborate on that, you all, right?
Go ahead.
Okay. Again, this is the part that saddens us, right? As officials, and that's exactly what I was referring to at the last. This is what I was referring to at the last meeting. The last meeting that we had, we had it with the mayor. That was what I was stating our frustrations are. If the administration do RFPs, then we'll know as a board who is owed what and who's doing what work, and it'll be approved. Right now, as I was stating to her, it's so all over the place that we can't even agree to pay you because we don't know once we say, okay, you're John Close, okay, you have 300,000. The issue comes about where we'll have a warrant list next month and we'll have Paul trees, Sean trees, Chris trees, Nathan trees. And then before we know it, all of these people are saying the exact same thing that you're saying. Oh, she just told us to go out and do the work. Now you have to imagine our position as board members, who's responsible for the spending and who's responsible for how the money is being spent, right? So for you, I know it's like, okay, I've done the work and now it's time for me to be paid, but that puts us in a very tough predicament because everyone, she's telling 10 different people to do 10 different jobs and it's unbeknownst to us, and we have 10 other vendors who have not been paid. We have 10 other vendors who have checks that are on the administration's desk and we have approved those. So that's why we're stating, hey, we can't continue to operate like this because there's checks that are being paid out, well, they're supposed to be paid out, right, that are signed and sitting on desks. Then, in addition to you, there's more work that is keep being assigned, and there's no way that we can keep up with all the work that's being done. Now, we're not against trees and tree trimming, but we have to prioritize. As I asked them at last meeting, where is the tree list that you kept asking about as a trustee? We have to be able to know that the trees that are a priority, right? Because we know that there was some flooding and some of the trees do need to be removed, right? But what do we do when you have the trees that's supposed to be removed on the same list of the trees that they're just part of their beautification project, right? So now how do we determine as trustees what's a priority and what's just being done for fun, right? So unfortunately, we're put in this predicament, and time and time again, we've been doing this for 2 years now, and this is the reason why we're in a deficit. Because as you stated, in July, we did have individual chats regarding the board saying, hey, okay, we do want to make sure some of these vendors are paid. But we can't continue to spend $400,000, as Trustee Belcher was saying, every month. It's not financially responsible. There's no way we can pay you, and this is just the trees. We're not mentioning the grass. We have 10 different grass vendors. We have 10 different event people that's going to come and bring their calls. Trustee Belcher and I were riding around town one day, and we seen some landscapers, and they didn't even speak English. So we couldn't even communicate to them that they should stop, right? I tried to be the translator. I didn't know what to do. We were trying because we didn't want to scare the man, but we were trying to tell him, hey, we cannot ensure that you'll be compensated, right? Because there's no approval. So I'm so sorry. And I know you heard a little laughter. We're not laughing at you. We're laughing at they're laughing at the fact that we keep saying time and time again at every meeting, no, we can't afford it. No, we can't afford it. Literally, we can't afford it. And she keeps saying, well, you know what? Don't worry about the board. Just like she told you, don't worry about the board.
It's politics.
We'll figure it out. It's politics. When no, we won't. We can't figure it out that way, and we can't continue to pay people because if we continue every month at this rate, we'll be missing payroll. So
they're not even getting paid though. There's no approval.
Yeah.
Still checks sitting on the desk.
Yeah. So even with approval, as Trustee Belcher said, even once we approve them, there are still vendors who are not getting paid that has nothing to do with us. They're just holding them because we can't afford it. We don't have money. So sorry.
Hang with me. I would like to kind of discuss afterwards again. I would like to after discuss. I did have one question. The trees. Yeah. Afterwards. But I did have one question for you. The trees, are they being selected and told that they just say, come cut this area and you just...
At the direction of Public Works, they give me a task to say you go up and down the blocks. They mark the trees for removal, or they ask me my opinion on certain trees. Residents, as they see us, are calling, hey, I want the tree removed, we're going back to remove trees. So we just start at this block and work east, start at this block and work south. Like we went from Sidley and Indiana, all the way to Wetland, Riverside Drive there, we completely wiped all that out. And Friday, John's texted me to Dorchester. That's what we showed up on University order. Dorchester and Diekman, whatever that is. We started there and going south. My guys were there, had 4 crews there Saturday, and crews are doing about 4,500 a day.
I would strongly...
And we were there today, this afternoon.
Okay.
Now, I understand, you're the board, and I understand that whole process. But the administration, which is at the top, the mayor, who I don't know, it's never one time, she's directing all us public works people, that we're working at their direction.
Okay. Well, I would strongly suggest stop until there's a resolution. I would suggest that. Should you decide to move forward, you know what you're moving forward with. That's the best I can say. So let's talk after. I did promise Gentleman Wood over here, then we're going to keep coming back with Wood.
I just heard that she said that it was checked, my check has been approved or whatever for the services that I've rendered and all. But how would that process be moving forward? I mean, we just lay down there on the desk, just have been signed, approved, whatever. I would say give it to me.
Yeah, I would, so what other vendors are doing, and it's the same thing, and we've been calling as well. Continue to call and ask them to really give your check.
Because I had a phone call from another trustee that's not here. They told me that I probably won't get it until I advise probably somebody on to your, well, forget it, until I advise you to sign the rest of it.
Thank you very much.
I ain't been paid this year. And I don't, do it. He said that the legend sign the rest of it. I probably can't get it.
So,
That's a stand right.
okay. Thank you for your honesty. So, if you don't mind, I want to continue going that way. That was over with. Ms. Price. Oh yeah. I'm sorry, Ms. Stone.
How you doing?
I don't need a mic or anything. I just want to thank you guys for being so transparent.
Yes.
And the mayor took Jason off the finance. This man does this as a living, so he knows what to do. Took him off and put Stan Brown. Stan has been silent. Now, I don't know if he gets a different report, but Jason has always said, hey, we are in a deficit. All of these guys up here. Stan, y'all watch him. He is silent. He's looking at the same numbers. We know he had problems reading the numbers. But he's looking at that financial report and he's not being transparent to the residents. He's a yes man. That's the mayor's man. So that's why you have him being silent about the deficit. Just watch him. He's never going to say we're in the deficit. But I thank God that Jason is on the side say, yes, we are in the deficit. And y'all just watch him. Watch Stan Brown.
But I want to kind of add on to that too, because there is a few things. If you'll notice, since the committees have changed, there is no financial report given. Meaning if myself or one of the other board members don't stand up and say something, they want the administration and the mayor wants it to be not discussed. They don't want us talking about money because money is an issue. So as much as myself, board members, please, I encourage every resident, ask, what's the number? Give me something in writing and post it on the website. It should be transparent. This is all of our money, and we need to demand to know what's happening. Having said that, I'll keep going with Sherry.
Just have a few things. When we talk about the FOIA request and not being able to get them, and then there being consequences, there also needs to be consequences for these employees that probably need to be trained. I mean, I was in the gas station behind an employee, and I almost got high just from smelling him because he was on the clock high. So again, I mean, when you call Village Hall, it's just Village of Dalton. I mean, nobody announces themselves. Nobody knows what they're doing, and you can't get answers. So, I mean, there needs to be some kind of training protocol, everything put together as to what they should be doing, evaluations. We know that there are no background checks, so we know we got murders, rapes, and all that stuff working. You know, and having jobs that it require them to enter your homes. What can we do? Because I've never worked a job in my 55 years where you could just do anything, say anything. I saw Public Works, they were coming down my block, blasting nasty rap music in their vehicles. I mean, they speed, they blow stop signs. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, if you call for police, you can't get police because they're all at Greenwood Falls. I was in the grocery store. They had just had an incident. The manager was like almost distraught. He was like, we had to hit the panic button and still nobody showed up. And then finally somebody showed up. But it was because it was the Charlie Wilson concert at Greenwood Falls? Yeah. I mean, so, you know, that's real important. I mean, customer service is, you have to be able, I mean, we're paying their salaries. And then you got some of them, they are on social media during the day arguing with residents about what's going on. Hey, aren't you supposed to be working? Why are you fighting with somebody on social media? And then as far as the vendors, maybe generating a letter, letting everybody know, contractors, and you know, this is what happens. You need to have a contract. There needs to be an RFP. Things need to go before the board, so things like this may not happen. Or they may or may not, because, I mean, you don't have to tell me 9 times that I'm not getting paid for me to, you know, realize I'm not getting paid. So, at the end of the day, it's just out of control. And then everybody needs to start contacting Kwame Raoul, because his ass needs to start doing something about the over 300 FOIAs that have not been answered. He was elected to do a job, damn it, do it. Kim Fox, I don't care if you're not running again. figure out what's going on in Dalton. We've been screaming, we've been crying, we've been asking for help. I mean, she really is Nino Brown. They are riding around town. You got employees bucking at you and acting crazy. I mean, you know what? I ain't gonna start it, but I will finish it. But another thing is, you are an employee, act like one. It's just crazy that people feel like they can do whatever they want to do in Dalton. People can come, they can just make their money. Oh, we gonna get paid, we gonna get paid, we gonna sue you. Well, if you don't have a contract, if you didn't go through an RFP, if you have ordinances on how things should happen, then that's the way it's gonna happen. All of us residents, we cannot just go into tea with the trustees and not doing anything. We need to be calling the public integrity departments. We need to get on the AG. When these people start coming to your house this month in October, knocking and asking for you to sign a petition, tell them, slam the door, get away from my door. Because you said nothing. I've seen two politicians say anything about what's going on in Dalton other than our board of trustees. It's got to stop. It's got to stop. And we cannot be, what is she going to do? If you bust her out, then she'll stop. If we're quiet, nothing's going to happen. That's what happens.
Thank you, Sherry. Valerie?
I would just like to say this. Whenever I'm having any work done at my house, I must have a couple of things. I must have your credentials, and I must have a contract. In the other municipalities that you have worked in, I'm sure, Olympia Fields, South Holland, I'm sure, almost positive, I put money down on it, I'm really not a betting person, that you have a contract with those villages to do work, and we have the same protocol that the trustees, they decide and they control our money. And if they didn't vote on it, it don't happen. If you come to my house and I don't vote on you to do the work, it don't happen. You know, and I don't care.
But you're the mayor of your house.
Hold on. I don't care if she ain't Jesus. If she's not Jesus, because I'm talking about my tax dollars. And my tax dollars are extremely high in the village. Excuse me, and I did not interrupt you. Okay? Because you should have known better. And all the other vendors should have known better. And the trees that they're cutting down, everybody, because he made me stand up. You know, you have rain ready that I was just a part of. And we have to stop cutting down all our trees because some of our trees help with the flooding, right? Now, just because you don't want a tree in your front yard, you should have chosen another house like I did without a tree. And I'm not being funny because some of that will help us with the flooding because our infrastructure is messed up. And just because this woman that don't pay no taxes in Dalton, among other things, that need to be removed from that office today, then you need to sue her person and not us, the village of Dalton, because those trustees did not vote to give you a contract, and they have the numbers right there, and that's real talk. They're not responsible. We as residents shouldn't be have to fatten your pocket, and I'm sorry to say that, sorry that happened to you. But as a businessman and I'm a businesswoman, you should have known better. So I suggest you get your money from Tiffany. Now, I want to say something else because I'm done with that part. I want to say about your code enforcers that are not certified. Going around here, jumping out like they jump out boys, like girls. You know, that are not certified, going into people's homes, getting paid overtime, undertime, And I'm sure you all aware of that. And also it's a state law that they need to be certified. They also are trying to go into people's places and do inspections and can't do the inspection. Because if one of your code enforcers, this is for real, this is from the heart, go into somebody's house, pass the inspection, and that house catch a fire for faulty electrical work, we gonna be stuck with that bill. Okay, that's a lawsuit. And the lady next door to me that just moved in 3 months ago, she got all kind of issues. That house should have never been passed an inspection. The one next to her should never have been passed inspection because your code enforcers are not certified. And in addition to that, Trustee Norwood, I thank you for putting on the agenda to be fair with our inspection fees, but they still can't come in my house because they're not certified. I do have one more thing to say about the budget, and then I can take my seat back. I was getting emotional here. Okay. We all came to a finance budget hearing. That was one time. Correct me if I'm wrong, and I might have forgot. We're supposed to have 3 meetings. It's also supposed to be posted in the newspaper. Was it published in the newspaper? Do anybody know? And June 23rd, and what paper was that?
They say Chicago Tribune.
They say.
They posted in there and they didn't ever even tell us. It's not until we ask.
I'm not good with they say, you know. And what happened to the other meetings that residents supposed to be invited to go over our budget because we are in a deficit. And this mayor is spending all our tax dollars. But we already know that. And just like we came here, I'll be at the next board meeting. I tried to come to the other one, but she canceled. And I'm asking everybody to come up and let's stand up. Because all we do is get amongst one another and talk that talk. But we don't walk that walk. And I'm ready to walk.
And 7 board meetings have been canceled this year. 7 board meetings have been canceled this year. 7.
Okay, I got a little something for the board and a little something for the party people back here. All right. This is just a suggestion. Is it possible when you all do your executive sessions, you not do it in the middle of the village hall meeting? Because I was at the one right after Labor Day, and after you guys went to your executive session, it took all the air out of the room, as you well know. And there's got to be a better way to do that than to completely stop the meeting and come back, you know, whenever we don't, you know, all of us have things to do, okay? And I know you're not doing it out of malice or whatever, I understand that. But there's got to be a better way to do it than that. I'm just throwing it out there. Secondly, the very fact that we're in this freaking room should be an insult to everybody in here. Isn't there some way that, since you all are the majority on the board, and since the executive branch only signs off to what you guys pass, that we don't have to get kicked out of our own freaking city hall? We pay for that damn room, for that building. Well, we got to come here. If she calls the cops, you call the sheriff's department. Do whatever you got to do. There's got to be a way to stop her from not only unilaterally canceling our meetings. When I say our, I mean village hall meetings. The first and the third of the month that we've been doing, and I've been here since 1989, they've been doing it that way. So she gets to come in and say, no, we're not having a meeting, no explanation, no nothing, and just cancel it, and we just sit down and take it? That's got to be something you guys can do. I mean, I'm serious. We shouldn't be here.
You want to know my suggestion?
We should not be here.
Well, I'm always down to pick it, so if you want, I mean, the thing is, it's not enough, because as you all stated, there are powers in numbers, right? And we have the same few residents that come up every time. So sometimes what it looks like is that we don't have the support. of the room or the people, right? When we have citizens address and we have residents, we have a few, maybe 1 or 2 residents come up, we're outnumbered, right? With the residents that come up and say, you're doing a great job, keep going, right? So if you all want, I'm open to our next special board meeting, because I'm sure this won't be our first, right, or our last. If you all want to insist that we have it in the building, we can meet there at 4:30, and then if we all go in there, they can't shut the doors, and we can take it from there.
Let's fill up the jail. Let's do it.
But we do have to have enough. I mean, I would say that. We can't come with lies, because we probably will be arrested. So, I mean, we have to have enough so they can't take us out, if that makes sense. So, maybe 10 or more. 10 or more, and I'll be doing it.
Okay, what I did for the parties, and I also mentioned this at the last teacher trustees. Apparently, the administration has decided that they want to do everything they can to thwart the growth of the park district. She's probably pissed off because we're here, even in the secondary spot. So we know what that's all about. That's personal and petty, the things that you all are doing. Okay? But you also mentioned that you have worked with some very influential people, and I think you should enlist the help of some of those people and at least do a press conference. You mentioned the NFL, you mentioned the Urban League. If you can get, contact those people and ask them to stand with you and explain to them what she's stopping the growth of the park district, which is for the benefit of these black children that she swears that she loves when she goes twerking. Okay? We should do something like that. I mean, she's getting away with too much stuff, and we're not opposing her strongly enough. Now, I know you guys got, I'm not criticizing anybody, and actually I'm supposed to be talking to the party, which is where we are at. We need to stand together on this. We need the park improvements. We need things for our children to do. And if I'm a black female, and they messing with me, and never even thinks about the fact that 90-something% of this village is black and overwhelmingly female, as if she's the only black person in Dalton. You know, that crap. I mean, enough is enough. At some point, we got to do something with that. I had some more stuff, but I got so pissed off I can't do more. Okay. And did you say we had 28 police officers on? Trustee Belcher, 26? 23.
That's actually on the streets.
And how many in her entourage on a day-to-day basis? Does anyone have that information? 6 in her entourage.
There's 6 detailed to her. 6.
So how in the hell does she get 25% of the protection in the village of Dalton? Is there something that can be put forth on that? Is that an ordinance that can at least stop her from taking all our officers off the street and following her around?
She don't follow the rules.
I'm sorry?
She doesn't follow anything. There's so many ordinances. There's grievances. The Fraternal Order of Police is contacting me about different things that's going on. She does. I mean, I don't know what you want us to say. And that sounds defeated because we've been to everybody. We've been to the Attorney General. We've contacted Kim Fox. We've sent letters to Governor Pritzker. We sent letters to the state police. You feel defeated because I don't know, like if they're gonna give us a big Christmas present or something, but it's nothing that's happening. So I don't know what you want to say.
Well, I don't feel defeated. And I hope some others feel that. You know, had enough of this. One person, this is a damn dictatorship. We can't have this. How are we being dictated to by a freaking moron? What is that?
One person getting having 303 hours on a paycheck.
Overtime. Board members.
A $13,000 check.
This community are holding you guys responsible for what's going on in this community. This community are holding you all responsible for this. I'm saying it shouldn't be that way, but it is. And what's going on is she's running and you guys are stepping out watching her do it.
Right.
That's the perception. Might not be the reality.
No, the residents need to stand up. All of us need to stand up.
The community are holding you guys responsible for it. I'm just letting you know that.
We should be
all
holding
jobs to make her do the right thing. You guys should do. You guys should see that she's doing the right thing, and it's not happening. And we are. You guys are representing us as a community, and that's it.
Okay, well, before, right? We keep trying, and then they'll still find a way at the end to make it, because we've been saying we was in deficit. Trustee, the House has been stating that we've been in a deficit for the last year and a half now. We've had an entire recall. I mean, it's supposed to be scheduled for a meeting, right? Because we're doing our due diligence and we're trying, as they're stating, we've contacted everyone that we can contact. So at this point, if we cannot physically, as the Lord say, lay hands upon the situation, all we can do is wait. And I understand you all get frustrated because, I mean, trust us, for 2 years, just imagine at the meetings, on top of your frustration, we have the same frustrations because we live here, right? We're raising children here, we're paying taxes here, we have families here, so it's personal to us also. And that's why we continue to put up the fight, even though sometimes we have to pray with each other. We have whole prayer circles. We say before we go to a meeting, please pray for us, Lord, right? Give us the strength to stay, to at least conduct the business. So we want you all to know that we know that people are counting on us. And that's why we say as a community, we do need your help. But we all have to fight this great fight, right? It's nothing more, we're going to court. So we're waiting on the court system. The court system takes months. You just heard the story about the overtime, but guess what? We filed a lawsuit for overtime last year. We've been fighting since last year. We've taken it to the courts. So we're doing everything that we can do legally to try to get a hold of it, right? But it's so much, as you can see. I mean, frustrations were high because everyone was like, okay, somebody stop her. But the issue is who, right? And at what point? So we're all just waiting patiently, praying. All we can do is continue to put ordinances in, right? Because that's our job. We continue to put ordinances in, but of course we're only legislators. We have to have the executive branch enforce it. If they don't enforce it, our ordinances just sit there by the wayside, and that's what's happening. So that's when we say, continue to say, okay, well, we're going to try to find new ordinances to put in place. And we're going to keep going to these court dates, and we're going to keep showing up, and we're going to keep trying to shed light on the situation. We're going to keep asking you all that maybe 30 of you all standing at the meeting and begging, maybe that'll help, right? Maybe she'll listen to you all at this point. So just understand that the frustration is not just on you all, and we hear this every day. I mean, everywhere we go, it's like, what would you all do? There's other towns that's asking us the same thing. Yes. They're just as surprised as you all are. I hear mayors coming to us and saying, how is this happening? No one has the answer. I mean, all we can say is, we hope that you all continue to stay beside us, support us. We all know that we will have an election, we'll have a moment in time to make some changes, hopefully, and we hope that everyone make the decisions that's appropriate for the town, right? But all we can do is continue to shed light. We're exhausting all our resources. We're going to attorneys, we're fighting these court dates, we're going to court continuously, and that's all we can do at the moment. And I know it sounds like, okay, do more. But like I stated to you, I'll pick it with you. I'll power to the people if that's what we need. There's strength in numbers. So maybe you can get more people to come to the meetings, and maybe a line of people could try to talk to her. Maybe you all could beg and plead with her. But right now, all we can do is continue to say RFPs, please, right? Because that's why you hear me begging for RFPs. I'm not begging for RFPs for myself at this point, because as a board, we're used to not receiving information, right? So I'm not even doing it for myself at this point. It's so that you all can see, hey, we're asking. If the truth is that, hey, they want to work with us like they say they want to, do the right thing and bring the RFPs, and then everyone will see that they're trying to work with us. But that's all we can do, is continue to shed light and continue to hope that someone come in and try to take a hold of the situation. But until they do so, just know, we continue to fight these court cases. We continue to have these meetings where we can put in the votes. We can continue to have Tea with the Trustees. Tea with the Trustees was designed because you all didn't have a chance to speak, but you weren't getting any answers, right? So we said, okay, well, let's put a moment in place where you all could receive at least feedback. Right, so you all are not just as clueless as we are, because we ask questions, we send emails. Trust me, sir, we can't even add things to the agenda. We can't even add things to the warnings. Do you know how difficult that has to be if you're an entire person who sits on the board and you are supposed to legislate and you cannot do so because you cannot add an ordinance to the agenda? So when we continue to say these things, just know that we're not saying them for any other reason but to make it known that these are the things we are putting into place. And as a team, I'm hoping that we can get more people come up to the meetings. Again, we have the meeting on Monday. Everyone here, if you all can stay, stay or get the information for the next meeting, come. And hopefully you all will be able to plead. But I mean, we're not stopping, but we are in a process where until someone could actually come in and make, force, I guess, legal system tell us.
I understand what you're saying.
That's it. So I just want you to know, as a trustee.
I want you to know that we are holding you all responsible.
Okay. Okay. I just hope you heard everything I said.
They're responsible.
Okay.
You got to look very responsible.
Okay.
The mayor is held responsible. They're responsible, but the mayor also has to be accountable.
All right. Okay. All right, we're coming to the next comment over here. Okay. All right. Yes, sir. Okay.
I know. Good.
Okay. All right. All right. Come on. Let's go.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. All right. Hey, go ahead. Come on. Hey, sir.
You guys are supposed to approve all spending, correct?
Yes. Hey, Glenn.
So how is it that she's able to go out and lease a vehicle, get all this detail without your approval?
The man just said he seen somebody call somebody and he met with her and they had lunch and there it go right there. He just told you. And we bought $100,000.
I'm gonna say.
That's another story.
If
we let somebody direct him to do that, then, that's another story. That sounds like it. That sounds like, what you call it, hoodwink. That ain't the way it's done. It's not supposed to a contract.
But that's the reason why you vote not to pay the bill.
But to answer your question, you're seeing it right in front of your face. She'll promise somebody, they'll take the agreement, and then you look up 2 months later and we got a bill. It's the same as if one of your kids went out, spent some money, and then you look up, you get a bill in the mail. And you say, I didn't order this new app on my phone, I didn't order this new whatever, and now you got a bill. That's what's happening in the village of Dalton, and then we have to come behind and say, no, we're not going to do that, and then we get threatened with litigation. That's what's happening.
So that leaves you guys couldn't call the company and say, we're not approving this, you got to take it back?
You don't see it till then.
Yeah, at the time we see it, we can deal with it, but we can't send out a blanket letter to every possible vendor in the state of Illinois. And I'm not saying that like to be sarcastic. I'm saying like there is no way that we would have known to call this gentleman and say, hey, if she calls you, don't cut any trees. Never met him. Don't know him. Can't call him. So
it seems until the bills were made.
You know he was supposed to have a contract.
Yeah, no. So that's what's happening. Hold on, I want to keep going back so everybody at least has an opportunity, and then I come back.
Because we got to get out
I'm
of
sorry. I don't know if that kind of.
No, is there any way they can take her off the credit card?
We're working on that. That's tied up in court as well. No, she's off the bank account, but not the credit card. Okay. I don't know. That can. Okay. I got the gentleman all the way in the back. I see you wave your hands.
We've been going through this for months. But we got to start somewhere with something different. And someone made a suggestion, about the village hall. If we got here early enough with enough people.
That's right.
How you gonna put us out?
That's right.
Let's do it.
That's right. That's right.
That's what I mean.
Bottom line.
I'm just going to say one thing to that. We always get a commitment, I'm going to come. And the night it shows, or board meeting, well, I didn't come, I can't stay all night. You don't have to stay all night. Your presence, if it's just 20 minutes to get us in, you can leave. But it speaks volumes when you have a number of people in there. If the meeting started at 6:30, you're there. If you got to leave at 7, go home. That's fine. You don't have to spend the night. But show your faces to show solidarity. We don't have that. We got a room full of people here. All these people's in there, over there on Monday. You know what that would? That would shut her down. That would shut her down to see these many people that are dissatisfied with her leadership. We come Monday meeting, you probably got the faithful few, like we always have, that we can point them out. You're there. Again, it speaks volumes when you got the number of people that we had in here tonight should be over there next board meeting. If you don't say a word, your presence speaks volume. Like he said, the meeting start, they close at 5, getting that sucker at 4:30. You can't take everybody to jail because we ain't got enough room. We ain't got enough officers to take everybody to jail. So please, we're begging everybody, please, show up for next board meeting.
Okay. And what we're gonna do, because the Park District is giving us until 9 o'clock. We got 30 minutes. I got the young lady in the back, this gentleman, and Mary, and then we're closing out.
This is a special board meeting. They're every first and third Monday. I'm just saying this one was a special one, so it wouldn't have been on the regular schedule. But what we will do, the clerk has a schedule. We'll make sure if you show up, then you can get a physical schedule in your hand. Not to say she's going to still have it. This last board meeting was canceled. I didn't even see the cancellation. I went up there. Nothing was on the door. Nothing was sent out. And I sent the email to the village administrator with no response. So this is the type of games that they play with us. You ask, when is the meeting? You get no response. These are the games that these people play. So again, if we can get this, we even asked, could we have the schedule put on the website? You can't even have nothing put on the website. Nothing. Anything.
All right, ma'am. Thank you for coming.
I wanted to say briefly. I don't think you're, and I'm not to put anybody down. I don't think you're pushing in the right direction because nobody is above the law. The state of Georgia had the same problem when Trump then tried to steal the election. And they told her there was nothing you could do about it. In case you forgot about that. Georgia was sitting back, and I got relatives down there. And I said, you all are not approaching it the right way. You can do something about it. You're not approaching the right person. I called about the people on Avalon and Kenwood, on Kenbar. They shoot, they play loud music. I called, I don't know if I was talking to Cook County Dispatch, or like she said, the unprofessional Dalton dispatcher. She said there's nothing we can do, the ordinance say 10:30. I said the ordinance is in violation of Cook County ordinance. Sheriff Dart is independent. You don't answer to Kim Fox. You don't answer to the president. You need a politician that is independent and to approach them. And I said, what's going to happen? You're going to see Cook County Sheriff Police descend upon Dalton with news crews if you don't do something about that loud music. And the other night it was shooting. So I called, they said, well, we've been out. I said, you didn't do your job. Because if you went out, you did your job, they would not have started back shooting again. And I said, if you don't do something about it, you're going to have the state police out. That's what's going to happen. And I said, do you want my name? Oh, you don't need it, because the caller ID, it tells you who I am. So this is what I expect for you to do. I expect for you to do your job before I start making calls outside of your township, because I'm holding you accountable for the safe being of my family. Because bullets go through houses, and they're shooting. They shoot every night. I don't see no police, and I hate to put them on blast. I'm in the military, but I don't see the police until you get several or more calls. Okay? The loud music. You're not telling me that they can play that offensive music that's calling women B's and H's until 10:30 as loud as they want to. No, they can't. No, they cannot do that. And I will not allow it while I'm sleeping in my community around my family. Now, you press in a different direction, and you get someone that's independent. Nobody's above the law. Trump was shocked when he had to come down to Georgia and get a mugshot. New York gave him a courtesy. They didn't even put him in handcuffs. They didn't give him a mugshot. Georgia said we're holding you accountable, and they kept pressing until they got some results. Now, it's not a personal attack against anybody, but if anybody is above the law, we helped create them because we stood by while they became that person.
Yep. Can I respond to that? Just
now I got a comment too.
I definitely agree with what you're saying, but look how long it took. It was 2 years later before they just took his mugshot. So if we allow this 2 more years, we're going to be in a detriment than where we are right now. We started this fight in 2021, and here it is 2023, and you just seeing it on the news. It's not like we haven't been doing it. So the people and the buttons that we're pressing, like you said, we got to go every avenue we possibly can. But look how long it takes. And at this point, if we continue and it's steady going on, it's putting us, our community, in a bad position. So yes, that is. We got to go everywhere.
I didn't know anything about it. The Nino thing, I thought that was a spoof or something for TikTok. I did not know that actually happened.
So,
but it still goes back to we're doing our part, and the clerk, we're doing, so we are reaching out to every avenue. But you just said it yourself. It was 2 years later before Trump just took that mugshot. If we go another 2 years, we're going to be probably in receivership. Do you know what receivership is?
So,
the state taking us over.
So I'm gonna kind of chime in. And like for myself and the board members, we've been pressing, we will continue to press, and we're looking for, well, I shouldn't even say looking for, the door is open for anybody that wants to join us. We've tried many different things. We'll never stop. And yes, yes, and there have been many residents that have joined us with the fight from day 1. There's some that joined us from day 14. There are some that are joining on day 200. And whatever day you decide to join, please join. We're going to keep doing it. We're turning over every stone possible, everything doing. So sometimes what you're hearing is, we tried that. Reality is it gets, you start repeating what you tried, and then you stop moving, trying to do something different. There's nobody up here that has not tried, and we're going to continue for the next 2 years. And as long as we're fortunate enough to be in these seats, we will continue to do it. Well, the doors of the church are open. Like, for real. I'm saying that for come join us, come do it. So, I mean, I appreciate the passion. I appreciate the frustration. I recognize, Glenn said, people hold us accountable. We hold ourselves accountable. We're not sitting around here just saying, oh, well, we tried it. Now, you know, we wouldn't be here tonight if we was doing that. Doors of the church are open. Come join us. We're going to keep moving. And that's just the way that I look at it and the way we do it for the many. And I say it would not be anywhere near the success, because we talk about the 4 up here because we get the privilege of being in this position. We got my brother, Trustee Edward Steve, that's been a part of this. Many in the room, Valeria Stubbs, Sherry Hatchett, Miss Thelma. So, Miss Mary, like if I start calling out names, then somebody's going to beat me up, because there's been many people. And this tent is going to keep growing. It's going to keep growing. We're going to keep going. So as we say it, yes, be frustrated. Come cuss me out, then join me tomorrow. That's what I'm asking you to do. Mary?
Just quickly, I take exception, just me. I take exception to anybody in this room that holds the trustees accountable to the shape we're in. I stood behind these trustees from day 1 through my family situations, my trials and tribulations, we all have. And it's good to see everybody in this room. It's good for everybody to say, you need to do this, you need to do that. Hell, you do it. Pick up the phone. Pick up the phone. Make a phone call. As a citizen, not an elected official, make a phone call as a citizen. That will have an effect. But don't put people down. You just said you thought Nino Brown was a spoof. Let me finish. So that means you just sat back and laughed at it.
No.
Well, okay.
I looked at it.
Okay, you looked at it, but you thought it wasn't real. But all of us that were there, we know it was real. Right. But that wasn't the first time. This bitch walked in here day 1 doing that, and I called her bitch. I didn't mean to. I swear I did not. But, you know, I'm grown. I'm older than she is, so I'm going to say it, and I'm going to stand on it. These people sleep this. and don't get a text, ask somebody, do you know what's going on? Ask one of them for a phone number so you can call them. You got to do something for yourself.
Yes.
You got to do something for yourself. Poor people can't do it. Poor people can't do it. And this girl is crazy. I don't care. We can sit here and pass laws. She is Trump, Miss Trump. She Miss Trump. That's who she thinks she is. She thinks she is greater than God. And anybody that calls God's name as much as she does, I don't want to be standing next to her when the lightning comes. Because she going straight to hell. I'm gasoline.
All right. All right, one comment. We're closing out after this one.
Stop complaining, correct it, vote. Because it's a lot of us living in this village, and a lot of us is not voting. So you gotta just say that.
Talk to your neighbors. What we're gonna do, the board will be here. So, but I do want to make sure we adjourn so we can be on timeline with the Park District. But we'll still be here for any comments and concerns. So with that, I'll make a motion that we adjourn this meeting.
Raise your hand.
Can I get a second? Is motion and second? Trustee Brown. Okay, and if we can, Clerk Keith, please roll call.
Trustee Norwood? Aye. Trustee Tammy Brown?
Okay. Aye.
Trustee House?
Aye.
Trustee Belcher? Motion passed, meeting adjourned at 8:42 p.m.
All right, thanks everybody.